Hello everybody and welcome to the sixth video in our series of videos on war and peace in Europe between the years of 1920 and 1945. Today we are looking at Nazi Germany and in particular how Adolf Hitler came to power. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes. So by the end of this presentation you guys should know what the Weimar Republic was and how it fell. You guys should know two views that Hitler outlined in his autobiography Mein Kampf. And finally, you guys should know three reasons as to why people voted for Hitler and how he became so popular. So we'll go back. The last time we saw Germany was at the end of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles. So what happened to Germany after World War I? So as we said, they were forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles, and they were threatened that if they didn't sign immediately, then that the Allied powers would invade Germany. This myth then becomes quite powerful in German psyche, I suppose, that they were forced to swallow the terms of the peace treaty while being strangled and gripped by the big four when they felt that, especially stuff like the war guilt clause, when they weren't the ones who initiated the war, that they were getting this blame. They felt they were being blamed for things they shouldn't have been blamed for. So after the Versailles Peace Treaty, Germany it was no longer an empire with an emperor or a Kaiser. It now became a republic, and it was known as the Weimar Republic. It's called the Weimar Republic because the German politicians, they met in a town called Weimar, and this is where they set up the new democratic constitution. So the Weimar Republic is in existence from 1918, the end of World War I, up until 1933, which is when, spoiler alert, Adolf Hitler takes over. So why wasn't this republic popular? One of the main reasons that it wasn't popular was people didn't want a democracy in Germany. No one voted for a democracy. There was no revolution for a democracy. They wanted the Kaiser or the king back, and instead, they were being forced with this unpopular treaty to take on a form of government that they didn't ask for. The second thing was the people blamed this government for accepting the Treaty of Versailles, which they were so unhappy about. Finally, there was a shortage of food and there was large unemployment. So many people, they weren't looking for something like democracy. They were looking for something more radical. They were looking for communism, was something that was very popular in Germany at the time. And there was a few attempted communist revolts. They saw what was happening in the Soviet Union at the time and thought that this is the way forward. So this is where Adolf Hitler begins to enter our story in the early years of the Weimar Republic. A little bit about Hitler. He was actually born in Austria in 1889. He moved to Germany only in 1913, and he joined the German army during World War I. He was awarded the Iron Cross First Class for bravery during the war also. After the war, he didn't believe that Germany had actually been defeated, and he along with a lot of people, went along with this myth that they had been betrayed by Jews and communists and the Weimar Republic. So soon after, he joined the German Workers' Party, and he became its leader, and he renamed it the Nazi Party. So that's where the Nazi Party comes from. Hitler looked to Mussolini, who had recently finished his march on Rome to take power. He admired many of his tactics. We'll see similarities and how they evolve. He will have followers called the Brownshirts or the SA, and a smaller group called the SS, just like the Black Shirt and the Squadristi in Mussolini's Italy. He also took a title of the leader, so Der Führer, in the same way Mussolini was Il Duce. And he also held marches and rallies and they fought street battles with their opponents, especially communists in the early days. So as I alluded, Hitler set up the SA or the Brownshirts. So the Brownshirts or the SA were founded in 1921, and the majority of these people who joined it, they were kind of disgruntled ex-soldiers. Remember, after the war, the German army was reduced to 100,000. So there was a lot of people who had been soldiers and were now kicked out. They joined the SA they would have fought, like we said, street battles with communists. They would have intimidated Nazis' political rivals, people such as the communists. They did security for a lot of the early Nazi meetings and stuff like that as well. Another group that was founded was the SS. These guys were founded in 1925, and they were founded as Hitler's personal bodyguard. And they grew from there, and we'll see after 1934 they become the main part of Hitler's trusted kind of armed forces. So in 1923, Hitler attempted a rebellion, which became known as the Beer Hall Putsch, because a lot of meetings were taking place in what were called beer halls in America, in Germany, excuse me, and so he attempted to take over. He was trying to seize power like Mussolini did, but he failed in his attempt, and he was arrested. While he was in prison, he dictated a book to Rudolf Hess, and the book was called Mein Kampf, or My Struggle, and he outlined some of his main beliefs. So he wanted to tear up the Treaty of Versailles, which is a very popular thing. He wanted to create a Third Reich, or a German Empire. He wanted to destroy communism, and he wanted to remove all Jews. In 1923, there wasn't a big audience for this. In the 1928 election, there was also little support for Hitler and his radical views, as the economy had been doing well. But by 1933, he was the Chancellor of Germany. So how did this happen? Probably the single biggest thing to really set this chain of events in motion was the Wall Street crash. So in 1929, the Wall Street crash occurred. Wall Street, of course, is in New York, in America, and this is when all the stocks in the stock exchange dropped dramatically on value. So on October 29th of Black Tuesday, the stock market completely collapsed after panic selling of all stocks. And in a single day, between $10 to $15 million was just wiped out, lost. And millions of Americans lost their savings. This destroyed the world economy. Remember, America was the biggest country at the time, and we were living in a global world now where something that happens in America is going to massively affect Europe, and it had a huge knock-on effect in Germany. It caused massive unemployment. Unemployment rose from 1 million to 6 million, which is about a third of the working German population. Other reasons that Hitler's popularity grew included the people, they lost faith in democracy and felt it had failed as a system. When things were getting good in the middle 20s, people were willing to give democracy a bit of a go, even though it wasn't something that they chose. But now, with the failure of the Wall Street crash, people just lost faith in democracy completely. On top of that, there was this fear of communism. We've talked about this before, and it's a common thread throughout this period. People were scared of losing everything to communists. Hitler he was fantastic at riling up a crowd, getting a crowd on his side. He used propaganda, he used speeches, and they used violence against their political enemies to get more support from themselves. Another thing was that people still felt massive resentment of the Treaty of Versailles. The repayments, or the reparations that they had to pay really came into focus after 1929, when they still had to be paying these things back, and 6 million people were unemployed. So what we can see here, especially after the Wall Street crash, was there was this growth of the SA, or the Brownshirts. The growth and the popularity in the Nazis, and it helped the membership of the SS skyrocket under the leadership of this man here, Ernst Röhm. The membership grew between the years of 1931 and 1933. Its membership grew to over 2 million members. It contained, there was a lot of people now who were unemployed. They were disgruntled, they wanted to change. The SA was offering this thing that we're going to make a change, we're going to tear up the Treaty of Versailles, we're going to deal with the communists, we're going to get everybody back working. And this is exactly what people wanted to hear. And no one could join the army at the time, because the army was limited to 100,000 men. So this private army of the SA grew to 2 million men. So in July of 1932, Hitler's Nazi party became the largest party in Germany. So after attempting to stop Hitler from becoming Chancellor, or Prime Minister, as it would be, the President of Germany, President Hindenburg, eventually appointed him. he had been convinced that once Hitler was in government, that he would be easier to control. So this is Hindenburg driving with Adolf Hitler to the Reichstag, or the German parliament, to take power. A lot of people didn't take Hitler massively seriously at the time, and they thought that once he was actually in government, that he would be easier to control, that all these mad things he was saying he couldn't possibly implement. So they thought that it was a good idea to let him run and fail. Um, but that doesn't work out quite as well as people are expecting. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So you guys should know what the Weimar Republic was and how it fell. You guys should know 2 views that Hitler outlined in Mein Kampf, and you guys should know 3 reasons why people voted for Hitler. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something good from this video.